Exclusively trademark TV here, right? Steve Jobs was a visionary. He had an idea of changing phones with keyboards altogether. Altogether, he had an idea of changing phones altogether back in 2007. The revolution, right, the way we talk on mobile phones was changing altogether. Steve Jobs had a vision 2002 to reinvent the phone altogether, but no one would take him seriously till 2007. They took him seriously, right? And he would change the whole aspect of phones altogether for the next foreseeable future, right up to today's phones. He would change the whole aspect of mobile communication. Well, probably for the next foreseeable future. But Steve Jobs died in 2011 of pancreatic cancer. Right, he died of. Right, he was a visionary. He had a vision to change the quirky keyboard phone. Right, that BlackBerry, Motorola, Nokia had. Right, and the Palm and anything else that had keyboards on it at the time, quirky keyboards, all together. He invented the phone. He invented something which would change the way we look at our smartphones, look at our phones all together. We look at our phones, well, the way we use them, the way we communicate on them, the way we multitask on them, the smartphone will think the way we do. He invented the whole aspect of the phone itself. He reinvented it. He reinvented the phone. He reinvented it. He did it all. He reinvented the whole aspect of phones for the next foreseeable future. It wasn't because he wanted to, because he did. He reinvented the whole aspect of phones. And he was calling it the iPhone. It was a revelation that it can multitask every application you could ever think of. From iTunes, from iPod, to a phone, to an internet device, all in one device. And he was calling it the iPhone. The iPhone was the way forward. Right? And he called it OS 10 when it first started. Because it really wasn't called iOS. It wasn't called that then. It was called Android iOS. It called X. It was called 10, Mobile 10. That was the operating service. But in when he got to the 3G, the iPhone 3G, right? He called his first operating service iOS. iOS 1.1. That was the first one that come out. iOS was born. And then, years later down the line, when he got to the iPhone 4, 3GS, right, nothing was finalised then about the App Store. Wasn't invented then. And then when he got to the iPhone 4, right, he invented the App Store, and iTunes was invented. And then when he got to the 4S, he invented Siri, and it also had a front-facing camera added to it on the iPhone 4S. Had a front-facing camera. Wasn't invented to the iPhone 4S. And then, while he was writing the iPhone 4S, Andy Reuben, who was at Apple at the time, I don't know what happened, but he left Apple with a vision. He had a vision as well. He was a visionary as well. He had a second bloke had a vision to change the whole aspect of operating services altogether. who had paved the way for the biggest operating service. And like iOS, this was the second biggest operating service in the world. He was as well. And when he wrote down the bank, Andy Reuben did, for a £10,000 loan, we thought he's joking. He's got a vision. We thought he was joking. Right? He had a vision to make Android. He had a vision. He had a vision to make Android. As the second largest operating service in the world. He had a vision. From that £10,000 loan, and in 2010, Google stepped up and met Andy Reuben in New York somewhere in an office and said they'd buy his operating service for £50 billion. They'd buy Android for £50 billion. And they will take it on. And they will write the Android operating service Andy Reuben made in 2008. Would write his operating service for the next foreseeable future. Would pave the way for the largest operating service, the second largest operating service in the world. Android and iOS are the largest operating services in the world. They've really taken off. They've moved. Right? There's more Android phones than there is iOS. 87 people are on Android, and 85 people have now got iOS, some kind of Apple and Android device. Some kind of Android device, an Apple device, is what people are using these days. It's Android and iOS. You don't know what manufacturer in Android is doing the operating service. Everybody's got some kind of smartphone. Don't know if it's Apple or Samsung or Oppo or Nokia or Vivo or Xiaomi or OnePlus or any sort of smartphone in the Android service. It don't matter what company they come from. Everybody's got a phone of some description. It don't matter what it is, whether it's an iPhone or an Android one. Right? Android and iPhone, iOS and Android paved the way for the biggest revolution in mobile technology ever came about. If Android wasn't invented by Andy Reuben and iPhone wasn't invented by Steve Jobs, none of you lot would have a smartphone as good as it is today, with 4 cameras with a 200 megapixel shooter and 6.9 inch screens and batteries with 6,000 batteries. It wouldn't be as good as it is today. Right? Because them two visionaries paved the way for the largest operating services and the largest breakthrough in history. Without Andy Reuben and Steve Jobs, nobody would have a smartphone as good as it is today. Exclusive Trademark TV, signing off.